Kenzie,
Spidey.
welcome to the third edition of the Findon Cricket Club podcast from the Hill End. This person who we're going to interview in a minute is a Findon legend.
Right, yep.
Your clue to guess who it is, they had a part in Hello, Hello.
Oh, is it Hair Flick, Mikey Metters?
Hey!
Findon!
Hi, welcome to the third edition of the Findon CC podcast from the Hill End. I'm Spider Nichols, your host here, along with my good pal, Mr. Simon Cairns. Hi, Si.
Evening, Jace.
Are you well?
I'm very well. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, well, the ground looks immaculate. We're in the clubhouse at Long Furlong, so congratulations. It's the pre-season time of year, and it all looks green, lush and beautiful.
It's not actually raining, so we're good. So let's get another legend on air.
Yeah, so our guest today is a former first team captain, former second team captain, former third team captain, former chairman,
Former junior manager.
He ran the bar as Hair Flick.
Former secretary.
So let's
Current secretary.
welcome Mr. Michael Metters, Findon legend.
Hello, Spider.
How are we?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Great.
How are you, Simon? You okay?
All the better for seeing you, Mikey. All the better for seeing you.
So the idea of the podcast, Mike, is to kind of preserve a few of the memories of players, present, past, and, for posterity's sake, bring up a few memories that, names of people that we might forget at some point. So it's an opportunity for us to reminisce. So I'm kind of keen to learn what your first memories were of Findon, how old you were when you came up here, who was the kind of people involved. So,
yeah, when I first came up here, it was 1975. And Spider, you'll remember, and Simon as well, you'll remember Brian Francis,
right,
who was one of our umpires for a
Yeah.
number of years. But Brian at that stage was a Goring member. And his wife, Joan, cut the family's hair. So I had 4 brothers and sisters, 2 girls, but the 2 boys, the haircut was by Joan. And I was looking for a cricket club. I was well into cricket. Went out to Sussex a lot with my autograph book, did all that, and looking for a club to join. And my mum said to Joan, "Oh, where she might go? Should we go to Goring?" Well, maybe, but Findon's just up the road. Anyway, I came to Findon, 1975, and joined at the same time as Paul Thatcher, who you'll know. And my earliest memories were, I think it was probably somebody like Simon Wheeler, who was probably second or third team player, but basically hitting bombs up in the air on Broadwater Green, because we trained a bit on Broadwater Green, all up in the air, thinking, I'm never going to get under that. I'm only little, I can't catch that. But in the end, we did, and I loved it. And as you guys have probably alluded to, I love my fielding more than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah.
Doing that. But that's first memories of coming to Findon, and
So have you always been, has that always been, I always think of you as fielding is your thing. You're the most enthusiastic fielder I've ever played with.
And I think I realised that I could do it better than most people, I knew I could do batting or bowling better than most people.
I wouldn't do yourself a disservice, Mike. I've seen you clock the runs up.
I've seen a big 6 into the field at Arundel, albeit on the third 11 pitch, but it was a clean 6.
And one at Pagham?
Yeah, I mean, those boundaries at Pagham straight are long, aren't they?
Yeah, really long.
Yeah, I think it just took out one of the slats on the side.
Yeah. So you're a young cricketer. Obviously, what was the sort of pathway for you into adult cricket?
Very much playing Sundays. Yeah, very much playing Sundays. So probably 14, 15, playing Sundays. Some of the guys who weren't brilliant cricketers, I remember going in, driving to the away games with a couple of those guys, and it's probably a bit hairy actually in terms of the way they drove to the games. I remember one guy had an absolute ream of CDs. I think it probably was CDs in those days. And he just put them on or tape. No, they were tapes. Put them in the car, and the music was just really loud. I don't know what the heck was going on. But we got the game and I loved it. And
who were the types of people that were playing with you at that point?
In the early days, some of the guys. Simon Wheeler was one. It was mainly second team Sunday games.
Was it Belly and Payne
Chris Bell and Payne
Chalky
for
White?
sure? Yeah, they were. Yeah, Chris Bell, Mike Payne, Dennis White. Those guys, because we were playing. Wasn't playing. It was second 11 Sunday cricket stuff. And I wasn't very good, but I just loved it. And my parents couldn't understand why I went. I said, "Did you score any runs? No. Took any wickets? No. Where you go?" Well, I just loved it.
Great.
And it was with those guys, and you just got a feel for what the club's all about. John Scrace was around at that time. Big character. Yeah.
So the essence of the podcast, Mike, is for you to pick your favourite 11 of the cricketers that you played with during your Findon career. So before we'll start, we'll toss the coin. Heads or tails?
Heads, Spider.
Heads. So it is heads. So you can bat first if you want. Up to you. It's your choice.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's go with your batsmen. Who are your openers?
My openers were John Rogers. Just a superb batter, brilliant stroke player, and extremely confident. Took the game to the oppo. And I'm not sure he was a great guy for everyone to say, right, this is how you do it. But in terms of attitude to try and win the game, great player. And probably one of the best we ever had at Findon. That's
it's interesting to say that John could do things that there was no point trying to copy him for us mere mortals. You just had to watch and admire and do things your way. But
and the other thing, batting was obviously his thing, but he was a pretty clever bowler as well, to be honest. But the other thing for me was when we had the sort of exodus in 2007. Not only John had been a good captain prior to that, very good captain prior to that, he came back and stood up and said, "Look, I can help you out for a couple of years," and saw the transition from the VKO Lords team primarily to what was a batch of youngsters who we weren't sure whether they were good enough, but there were a few itching to get in the team, like Felix Jordan and Mickey Demetrio, who was sort of on the periphery, Josh Stevens, and then a sort of younger batch of the Bridgesons and my own two boys as well. So, Jack anyway, not Harry, was probably a little bit too young at that stage. But so fishy. Yeah, fishy.
You mentioned the exodus. It was on your watch as chairman. Was that a difficult time for you?
Yeah, very difficult. Yeah. Because the thing with that was, I think, it was just trying to make sure there was a transition from a very successful team that were in cricketing terms. They weren't aging, but they were all sort of mid 30s onwards. And there were some youngsters who were, we didn't know whether they were good enough, but they were certainly keen enough. And it was my feeling that we needed to get a few more of those involved and give them more responsibility of the team, which is quite difficult for the guys who are running that team at the time to transition like that. And probably we didn't agree as to how we might go forward, and there was a falling out. So, but what is it? 17 years ago now. Seems it is a long time ago. It was a bit difficult because we had a local press man who seemed to be, that was a great thing that he could put on the back of the page, and it was a big deal because half the team left, so it wasn't very pleasant. And I don't generally didn't want to get involved in feeding the press, information or give them an opportunity to make it worse. But it was a bit tricky, yeah.
Yes, and ironically, the fact that those guys, the younger players who stepped into the first 11, have kind of continued to be first 11 cricketers, possibly helped their careers because they've seen it all, done it all for a lot longer. Whereas if it hadn't have happened, they'd been waiting a long time.
Yeah.
And who knows where they might have gone.
Sure. I mean, Bradley Woodson came into the team at that time. My own son Jack, Glenn, who was a bit younger, Josh before he moved away, Mickey before he took his football very seriously. And then others sort of followed on from that. And it's sort of continued there. Like at the moment, Felix is obviously one of them. Yeah, Felix is a major part of that. They're still playing. Bradley, Felix, Glenn. A little bit later, Graham Mates. These guys are, a lot of these guys are still playing and racking up. Being available every week, and it's a real part of their lives. Real part of their lives.
Who's your second opener, Mike?
Well, you've got to get the balance, and I have chucked my own son in there actually. Jack, I put him in. With Fishy was a big supporter of people who like to get on with it, and Jack was probably better off getting on with it than trying to block it. Although he's pretty patient at times, but John and Jack had quite a few partnerships together, and actually Jack got 100 when Fishy was at the other end, his first league 100 against Slimfold. Unfortunately, I think I was on a date at the time, actually, when I heard the news.
Really?
Yeah, just one of many, probably.
Were you at the Linger Longer?
No, I moved on from there. Yeah, I think I was in somewhere in Stenning, but I heard that on the news. So that was really nice. And John was a good guy for the young players. It didn't matter how old you were, or how tall you were, or how small you were, because he'd play if you had the right ability and the right attitude. So, yeah.
John had a really good ability that he never made you feel like you weren't good enough. He would always talk you up and make you feel like you were batting with him, not there to support him playing. You were there to do your thing.
It wasn't a contest when you played.
No, again, because there would be no contest because he had more ability in his little finger than when I batted with him than I would ever have had. But he never made you feel like you were inferior anyway. It was always how are we gonna get runs? How are we gonna see this bowler off and that?
And very generous in his in the chat afterwards, or what he said to everybody else. It wasn't about what he did at all.
No, he'd big you up. Yeah, you could get 10 out of to his 100, but your 10 was just as important.
Yeah.
In his eyes, yeah. Good.
So tell us what Jack's up to now. Some people might not know what he's doing.
So Jack left. Well, he's been away for 10 years. So he's been away. He's lived away for 10 years. So when he left 2015, having been at university, rugby was his sport as much as cricket, probably a bit more in many ways. And he went abroad to travel, to just go and travel the world for a few years playing rugby. And that's what he did. He went to Australia, New Zealand, and then ended up in Hong Kong, where he's been for the last 6 or 7 years. Still playing a bit of cricket, not so much rugby now. He's got a couple of...
How old is he?
Jack's 33.
Wow.
So he still plays a bit of cricket on an absolute belting wicket in Hong Kong in a nice, expat type scenario of Hong Kong Cricket Club. And that's got really nice facilities, so it's great for his little daughter. It's 2-year-old, and he's got another one who's only just born. So, he's doing great, and still tries to get as much sport in as he can, but that's probably limited a little bit.
Do you get out to see them out there, Mike?
I've been 3 or 4 times, and I'm hoping to go in a couple of weeks' time.
Great.
So, yeah.
Well, send him our best wishes.
Thank you.
This isn't just about your selection. Kind of keen to know other personalities that you've come across in your Findon career. So, any umpires which you have tussled with in your captaining career?
Yeah. No, probably. Yeah. Greeny was an umpire that stood out. I mean, his little flat cap, and he was quite clear as to who was in charge, and I think that was really good. And we have had some umpires who, to be honest, probably didn't rate in terms of their ability to make the right decisions, and were a bit sort of wishy-washy a little bit. But Greeny, my record of Greeny was he was firm as an umpire. Might not always have got it right, but he was firm. Going back, I think remembering Jack East.
Yes.
And I mean, Jack East was an umpire probably when I first came. That was probably mid-70s. And then worked through Frank Higgins. Yeah. Was probably an umpire at that stage as well. And then, Alan came along, and Pete Chapman. those two. Yeah, I mean, some of the Sunday umpires, I'm struggling to remember a few of them, but Burt was probably one of them. But there's a few around. But
we need them.
Absolutely, and now we've got we're trying to get sort of like Swallows there and doing his bit, which he's doing, and Dave Glover's doing stuff, and Alan's still around, even though he's retired from umpiring. He still wants to help out where we can. So it's a challenge to get umpires. It's a challenge. It's a lot of time given up, and not everybody enjoys doing it, because actually some of the players now are a little bit more, challenging, not so accepting of decisions. It's just life, I think.
What are your thoughts on? We talked with another podcaster that we had in, and they were talking about the format of cricket. Obviously, Invitation League used to be 2:00 starts, 20 overs from 6:30. Now you've got win-lose cricket. Do you see that as better for development, for enjoyment? How do you see that?
I think in an environment where people need things straight away, I think playing cricket where a draw is a possibility is a no-no for nearly everyone who's a young person. I think win-lose is the way to be. I mean, what is a bit surprising is that the time when the game starts seems to get earlier. It doesn't seem to finish a lot earlier, and that's just because just players don't get on with it. It takes too long. The idea of bowling 18 overs in an hour, which used to be, come on, let's see if we can get 18 and sometimes 20. Now they're sort of struggling to do 14, 15 minutes. That's not because the ball gets lost all the time. It seems to take forever.
It's a lot of apathy, isn't it? Especially when batsmen are chatting.
Yeah. But yeah, certainly win-lose. But I mean, at the top of the game, there must still be room for people to build innings and
for sure
have the draw. Yeah, but in our other than the Prem in Sussex cricket, I think it should be.
So let's talk about your middle order, Mike, from your Findon fantasy team.
Yeah. As a number 3, and he'd also be my wicketkeeper, would be Leggy.
Simon Legg.
Yeah. Played a lot of cricket with Simon. When I was in the first team for a few years with Simon, and quite a lot on Sundays as well. Really good value. Knew exactly what he was doing, and very, very tidy wicketkeeper. And as a batter, he knew his game. He knew what he was capable of doing, and he was quite demanding of others. But he was a good guy to play with, and always liked to talk about the game afterwards as well. Some incidents. One of the memories that I have with Simon was a Sunday game where we ran out someone on 99 at Chessington, playing Chessington on a Sunday game, and a guy had never got 100 before.
Oh, I played in that game with the tears. If I remember rightly,
there were tears, and it was a little sad. I must say, because he played very well, and he slapped one, and we managed to field it, and remarkably we managed to field it because it was travelling, and looked like it was his shot for 100 to get the 4 for 100. He thought it had gone past the fielder, sort of running down the wicket, celebrating, but the ball wasn't. It was lodged underneath the fielder, lobbed back in, and got run out. And I think Leggy was the guy who took the bails off.
Yeah.
And we do, whenever I drive past Chessington, one of the benches just before we get to the A3, I do think of that, and given an opportunity, if I see Simon Legg, I will.
We mentioned that
happily
game.
Bring it up.
Yeah. That was also that game. That would have been a Sunday first 11 game, wouldn't it? That was probably the best club track I've ever seen. You could see your reflection in it. It was
incredible.
It was an unbelievable piece of turf.
Could we go and steal it for your the curator here?
It was it was as near to perfect as I've ever seen in club cricket. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So who are your other middle orders, Mike?
Not based on ability in terms of the best ability, but someone who I think I mentioned it to start with, someone who I joined the cricket club with at the same time, Paul Thatcher. So Paul hasn't been playing cricket, he hasn't played for about 35, 40 years. But at the age of 12, 13, I joined the cricket club with Paul. He liked to hit the ball. He was a bit of a dasher. But the thing I remember with Paul, and it seems weird because Paul's these days he likes his extreme sports, and I'm as generally fairly dull as dishwater in terms of some stuff. But we used to get the cricket annual every year with all the players who played county cricket, and we'd go and collect autographs. But I remember on a couple of occasions in school lessons, we would be swapping bits of information to each other as to what were the middle names of certain cricketers were. So Alan Knott was Alan Philip Eric Knott, APE Knott. And I'd get it, he'd get it. I don't know how.
Sounds quite it's interesting.
It's incredibly dull. But the story really is how Paul got ever interested in that, because he's not,
Well, he used to turn up to cricket matches on his motorbike with a fairly buxom young lady.
I think she was a scorer for us.
Who was scorers, and there's some photographs in the clubhouse. And invariably, she would travel with somebody else whilst he was on his motorbike. And they were great times in the third 11.
It was the third 11
back then.
Yeah, it was a third 11 on Saturday. Yeah. But I mean, so Paul. I mean, I see Paul occasionally. He's an accountant, and I see him from time to time.
And a Lego collector.
Is he really?
He is a Lego collector. So maybe he's not quite as.
I don't know that.
Well, he's not quite as extreme as you think. Although he likes his cycling and other.
Yeah. He likes naked cycling.
Naked cycling. Yeah, it's probably. I always think of Thatch probably only second to James Yargo in terms of club members who would be would lose clothing.
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful.
Well, I think he still wore a tie, didn't he? I think he liked to wear a tie.
Yeah. One of the classic moments with Thatcher was we had the league dinner at Hove Dogs, and him and his mate, who was affectionately known as the Chucklehead, disappeared, and we didn't know where they'd gone, and they've come back head to toe covered in sand, and they'd gone all the way around the dog track. They even started inside the machine. And it was a very amusing story when he came back.
That's good for a night out. He was always great entertainment at the annual dinner dance.
Yeah.
He had a tie tied around his head with his mates, and dripping in sweat from dancing all night. Good value.
Great selection, Mike. Well done.
Yeah. Good pick.
Who else you got?
I mean, I've put him in middle order because I know when he first started playing was a pretty good batsman. Harris, I chucked Harris in. 5, yeah. I mean, he was playing an awful lot when I first joined, and he was still playing an awful lot 25 years later, probably at the turn of the century. But yeah, I mean, just a very confident, very talented, knew exactly what he was doing. Loved to be skipper, loved to be in charge, and still around now as our president. And he shows an awful lot of interest in what we're doing, and to see him up, see his van arrive at mid-afternoon on a Saturday, he's come up to watch the cricket for an hour, and that's and he is he's a constant. Isn't he?
For those people who haven't probably seen Harris, describe what he was like as a batsman.
When I remember him, I mean, I can see him with his red hat on. I don't know why he wore a red hat. Actually, I can't. Really
it was probably free. It was probably given to him.
Yeah, wasn't it from
was it
down
under?
I think it was possibly. Was it through Boyd D or something?
We'll have to ask him when he's on the show.
Yeah, I think he is technically a correct player. I don't think he did much swiping. I think he tended to play the shots. And as a bowler, extremely canny. He got people out by just sort of getting to think, what's he going to do next, and what's he has a little thought process. Whenever he was encouraging other people to bowl, younger people, myself included, he didn't do a great job on that. But he used to say, "Don't rush. When you get to the end of your mark, don't rush. Slow down. Let the batsman think about what you might be doing, whether you can do it or not. Let the batsman have a think, and mix it up a bit. That's great for people who've got a lot of ability, but for those who haven't, you just got to try and get it in the areas if you can.
I think we've been very lucky as a club to have him, involved so heavily for such a long time and to shape the club and direct us into certain ways. I think we've been very lucky.
Yeah.
What's your favourite ground away from Findon, Mike?
I always enjoy playing at Arundel, even though the memory of it is a sort of bumpy outfield. I just enjoy playing at Arundel. That's
thatched clubhouse.
Yeah.
Always sunny. Felt like
pretty
it was.
felt. Yeah.
And they were a competitive side, weren't they? They didn't let you ever kind of.
It was. I mean, it was the Mullins for a time, but Neil Chitty was one of those guys in the early days.
Another canny spilly bowler.
Yeah.
Any other players from other teams that you respected, Mike?
Years ago, it was Keema. There were players at Keema. I'm sure Moody was one. Moody Price was a bowler, pretty good. Petworth Park were very strong in those days.
Dick
Whitcomb. The
Scutt brothers.
The Scutts, yeah. They were good. And we had battles against Goring. A lot of battles, in the couple of years where I was when I was captain, battles against Goring. I think one of my worst memories, I'll bring it up before you do, possibly, was shelling a catch at slip when Dave Proctor was on naught. I think Paul O'Neill, but this was 1993, I think. Goring had bowled us out for about 125. Jason Lurie, 7-4. And I think they were 30 for 3 or something. And I shelled an absolute goober.
What were you thinking, putting yourself in the slips to start with?
I never think of,
I think because I wouldn't have been at first or second, but it was an extra slip in there. I can't really remember whether I moved myself from the covers or something into slip. But yeah, it was ground open up time for sure.
And Proctor obviously went on and won the game. Is that what happened?
50, okay. Yeah, and it was only winning by 2 wickets or something. So I think that did for us in terms of trying to defend because we won the league the year before, so trying to defend it was gone. But yeah, that was a pretty uncomfortable afternoon.
If someone didn't know the rivalry between Findon and Goring, how would you describe it?
Pretty intense, I'd say. They were a successful team. They had some good players, Grenville Miller, Peter Ribera, really good players in the sort of 70s and 80s probably. And they wanted to be the Premier team. Sort of, I'm not sure where Worthing were in those days.
Worthing would be played county league, wouldn't they? So it was.
So in our invitation league, Goring and us were really vying to be the winning team. And those contests were pretty tough. I mean, I didn't see a lot. There were lots of contests before I was involved in first team, but Alan Harris had a lot of those. They wanted to win, and it was pretty disappointing when we came out second best. But we won enough, and they won. They won a little bit.
But I don't think that rivalry's gone away. I think that there's still some, future games with something on it, and I know they're back in our division this year.
Yeah, I think the difference probably, and this is from 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, cricket is these days the team generally in first team cricket is made up of younger guys. You're not getting too many 30-year-olds where you had players who were, at their peak really when they're 30s playing. A few more of those than there are now. Most of the guys now tend to be in their 20s, I think, sometimes a little bit younger. So I'm not sure that rivalry is always as strong as it used to be.
Okay, Mike, let's get back to your selection. We've got a couple of middle order slots, not middle order, but the all-rounder and the wiki.
Well, sort of the all-rounder. I've got I've chucked Nigel Waller in there. I think he was a really excellent bowler. Solid, really solid fielder, and could score runs when he needs him, but I would put him in as my captain actually in this team. He was a really good captain. I think he knew how to get the best out of players. I think he knew whether you needed to, encourage them or give them a bit of a kick sometimes. And I think he knew the game really well as well. So
it's funny. I've umpired a couple of times. Obviously, I played for Nigel, on the odd occasion, but I've umpired a couple of times since when Nigel's been captain. Actually, umpiring, watching him captain has been really interesting. And actually, I didn't realise probably at the time how astute he actually was as a captain. Whereas when you're umpiring, when you're listening to chats with the bowlers and the field, just watching the field placings and appreciating,
And I think everybody who played under him respected him
Yeah.
massively.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't do anything that he couldn't do himself or asked you to do. But really, really good captain. Really good
and I think
he took a lot of wickets when I was captain as well, which helped. I gave him the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Harris had that role as well, but Nigel, took the ball to start with.
Yeah, that team had a lot of match winners in it when Nigel was captain, and I think if someone didn't do so well, there would be somebody else to step up. But they won that league comfortably, 5 out of 6 seasons. So.
Well, you had Jimbo, you had Toby, you had Sully, you had Graham. Who missed out bowling wise?
Big Alan Cook.
Big Alan.
Bowling spin. Johnny was probably still at times playing.
Yeah.
Still
that sort of Toby, Sully.
Mark Stewart. Yeah, a lot of good bowlers, a lot of wicket takers.
Yeah. They're all genuine, proper first team, and most all rounders as well.
And actually, if you think about it, that's probably what actually makes, in some respects, Nigel's job would have been even harder then, because he's trying to keep everybody happy in a strong team like that who had so many all rounders. That management thing. You've got to know when to.
I don't recall really any time when people were challenging, or felt disillusioned in that team.
No,
they were
and those
very,
VKOs,
very strong.
We've spoken to Toby about the VKO on his podcast, but that sort of bat first, get runs on the board, and then manage your bowlers and
stifle
the opposition, and I
remember one with Oxford. Was it Oxford Downs up here? Whether it was a semi-final or was it a semi-final? Oxford Downs. Yeah, I mean we hadn't got that many runs on the board, but as the overs went past, you thought, hang on, they now need 6 an over. It's pushing up 7 over.
Some of the games were Glide and others similar up here were the same thing, same sort of stifle the opposition.
Yeah. So Nige really, really good, really good player.
Any other players in the mix, Mike, for all rounder?
Probably Felix.
Yeah,
Felix Jordan. One of the younger guys. He's now same age as Jack, so he's 33. And he has time when you think he's not going to score a run for 4 or 5 games, and then has a purple patch. But just generally a very strong all-round player. Don't know how well Mickey Dimitro would have done if he put his time to cricket, but he was pretty talented at the age of 16, 17. Those.
Who do you think is the most attractive Jordan? Simon, Ben, or Felix?
You're talking male only.
Yes.
Yeah, Rebecca's not allowed to play.
Okay. It's got Ben, isn't it?
Exactly.
Is it Bruno Mars? Is that the sort of? Is that the was. Okay. What's happened to Ben? What's happened to Bruno?
No, we're feeling he's perhaps we haven't seen Benjamin for a little while, but maybe he's let himself go a bit now. He's made. We're hoping so.
Okay. All right.
So let's move on to wicket-keeper, Mike.
Well, I had Leggy.
Yep.
Leggy was my keeper.
You've opened up another spot in the late middle.
Oh, okay.
Order.
So for a wicket-keeper...
well, you don't have to have a wicket-keeper because Simon's filling that slot. You can fill it with whomever you choose.
Leggy, I'm just trying to think of other wicket-keepers who've done a good job. So who do we have? We had Shackers. I mean, it wouldn't get in my team in terms of strength, but to be honest, Chris Smith was a keeper who played in the VKOs in the 2 we lost in the semi-final. I think he played in both of those.
Is that why we lost those? Is that the connection?
Yeah.
We lost the VKO semi-finals because Smithy was wicket-keeper, or was it a coincidence? I'm asking the question. I'm not giving the answer. I'm asking.
Probably a little bit harsh. I think if you had a top quality keeper there, I think that might have made a little difference. But I mean, Smithy.
Nudge's not going to want to listen to this, is he?
But
he's
he played a lot of games. He played a lot of games, and I think he did better than his general ability. I think he performed better than his ability over a number of years. And if Smudger's keeping wicket, after a while, when he first came in, it was probably crikey, Smudger's keeping wicket, but he did a sterling job. To be honest, in an environment where he was going to get, blitzed by some very strong characters in the team, and probably did on occasion, but he kept coming back for more.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have got picked in that team if he couldn't contribute in some way.
Yeah,
because they would have put someone else. Nigel would have kept wicket or something, or someone else would have done it. Yeah. So yes,
we might see Smithy back. Hopefully, he did obviously flirt with playing again, and rather unfortunately broke his foot in his first appearance of his comeback. So maybe we'll get another comeback.
Was that a toe crushing Yorker or something?
It might have been first ball he faced of the season.
Yeah.
So
have we got that spot filled now?
No. So we've still got a number 7 because with Leggy, so you've got an extra batter slot.
Okay, batter slot, sort of weirdly, really. My other son Harry. So I'm sticking him in there.
Yeah.
So when he started playing in the first team, he was only about 4'3", and bowled from very low and got absolute stacks of wickets. Back at number 11. 6 or 7 years later, he probably couldn't take a wicket, but was a much more accomplished batter. So, both my sons left-handed. Not quite sure where that comes from, Spider.
So talk us through your regime as they were young boys. Were you up in the nets doing throwdowns to them?
Yeah, doing that quite a lot actually, and I think we did it out between the nets and the pavilion a couple of times. I remember Jack hit one, and I think it put a dent in Coxey's car. I think.
Does Coxey know?
I think I tried to sort of just.
So it's
no is the answer there. I think.
Okay,
Spider, from what I
I'm not sure whether it was it's probably incredible or something. But
being a man of the law, is there a period of time that these things lapse? So
we can't 6 years.
6 years. So,
how old are they now?
I think they're safe.
Okay.
I put it in my diary at 7 years in order to sort of John Cox speak to.
Yeah.
No, I did a lot of time, and actually, we did a lot of playing cricket in narrow corridor. So, and that was, if you guys will know me, I couldn't hit it off the square, but what I did hit, I tried to hit it straight. So the pull shot and the square cut was completely out because you then whack into the wall. I wasn't allowed, we'd have to stop playing if you hit the wall. So they were hitting it straight.
So can your boys play the shot square of the wicket?
Harry's got a nice square cut. Jack slogs it a bit on the leg side. But yeah, Harry's not so good on the leg side, to be honest.
Could we make a case? I'm going to just ask the question, depending on form and state of the game, of reversing the two and Harry opening the batting and Jack being a spinning all-rounder?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it depends who's up the other end, really, with Jack. I mean, he'd bat well with Rogers, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not... Bradley's a good guy to have opening, but he's not great running between the wickets. So that stifles a bit, and that probably stifled Archie a little bit, actually. Maybe a couple of times, a couple of years. Possibly could swap them over, but
I'm hoping for your sake that you've got 2 slow bowler, 2 quick slots left. I'm really hoping for your sake that Elsie your daughter makes one of those slots. Otherwise, there could be
one of your grandkids as well.
Otherwise, there could be trouble.
Yeah. So what have we got left? What are some slots that are left?
According to my list, you've got 2 slows, 2 quicks. But unless conditions
Before we do that, Mike, let's talk about a Sunday afternoon that you and I spent. We were on our way to New Haven.
Oh, yes.
And in the car was myself, yourself. You were driving. Richard Knight.
Yeah.
And Mark, the hockey player.
Mark Newson. Yeah.
And we're going over the old way across Brighton before we had the tunnel.
Yeah.
And we're on our way to New Haven. And
up a hill, wasn't it?
Up a hill. And a piece of stone has been flicked off the road and it's gone straight through your window. And we had to, and somehow we phoned the AA. Can't remember how that happened. And we had to wait a couple of hours for that to be fixed. And then we made our way to the ground.
No, there's something before that, though, isn't there?
I can't
on the radio.
I can't remember that. You carry on.
Yeah, on the radio while we were waiting for the AA, was it was all over the radio at that time. It was Rick Astley, wasn't it?
All right.
Never Gonna Give You Up. That was playing. I'm not sure it was playing constantly, but that was the song that was playing at the time. It was number one.
Is that relevant?
Not really, but you have reminded me of that on a number of occasions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm only bringing it up.
So we get to the game, and it's an hour into the and New Haven have decided to bat. We've got 7 players because 4. They've decided to bat.
This is a friendly.
This is a Sunday friendly.
Okay, right.
And I think they probably went on to get 200 and
240, I think.
240.
Yeah, I think so.
And then it was our turn to bat. I'm not sure whether you opened or whether you were 3.
No, I didn't open. I don't know.
With your Gray Nichols. Was it a power spot?
Power spot.
Power spot.
Yeah. And it had a middle, but it's difficult to find it.
And you managed to hit 83 to win us the game.
Yeah.
And I think it was the whole emotion of you should have, fielded first.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And it was a dark side of you I hadn't seen before.
Powered by Rick Astley.
Powered by Rick Astley and I'm not sure. Do you remember what colour it was? I don't know. I think it was my dad's.
I can't remember.
I don't know. But yeah, I think the memory was that was Colin and Colin Wells and his brother Alan Wells. That was their club.
That's right.
And I think their dad was playing in that game. And I think probably very hard nosed. Well, they've got 7. Tough luck.
Yeah,
we're going to bat anyway. And it was a rewarding day.
And you won the game for us, Mike.
Yeah, squirted a few out off the edge and got a few off the middle. So yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah,
good day. Yeah.
Okay, well let's keep moving on with the selection committee, Mike. So slow bowlers.
Slow bowler. He would bat number 11, Chris Green.
Oh. He's been named as an umpire, but not as a bowler.
Yeah. So for the younger guys, won't remember Chris, but when I joined the club, and a few years after that, playing probably around 1980, during the 80s, I played with Chris on a Sunday, and you guys, people listening, the younger guys listening, will remember. Just in front of the pavilion is up the hill, of course, and Chris would bowl from the road end. Bowl leg spinners, but would give it a lot of air. And batters used to, for whatever reason, they never came down the wicket, used their feet, and hit straight. They always used to try and hit the ball up the hill. And I was posted a lot of the time up the top, deep square, long leg. And the ball used to come quite a lot. And Chris got an awful lot of wickets that way. I'm not quite sure how many he got in league cricket, but he got a few, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't know. I never played with Chris. He was only an umpire. But Harris swears he would get north of 100 wickets in a season.
I've heard that.
Possibly, he reckons possibly getting on for 150 in 1 year. Where Saturday, Sunday, bank holidays.
You guys can't remember playing with him?
I played with him on tour once in Kent as a 16-year-old. But I've watched him up at Findon since I was a very small boy. And, you watch these openers who, could play the moving ball off the pitch until Greenie would bowl his lollipops and they didn't know what to do. They wouldn't use their feet. They didn't know, because Greenie put it on the spot. Yeah. And that's why he was effective.
And he chucked a quicker one in from time to time, didn't he? Obviously, just to...
Funny enough, Terry Burstow was umpiring up here at the weekend and recalling the first time he played up here on a bank holiday fixture, Dick Crump's 11 or something, and Ken McEwen, who went on to play professionally.
Was he the Worthing Pro?
Yeah. Was he? So he hit Greenie the first ball came down, and he patted it back and walked down to Terry and said, basically, "Is this serious or is this a joke?" And Terry was like, "No, it's serious. He gets a lot of wickets." And Ken McEwen basically walked down the track and hit him into the road for the next two. And Malcolm, I think, Gill was skipper, basically took Greeny off. Once they got Ken McEwen out,
he came back on again.
Greeny came back on and cleaned up with a 5 for all caught between cow and square leg. And Terry Burstow says it was a proper player, played him properly, but he used to just sucker people into thinking they couldn't wait any longer and would swipe it up the hill and get caught.
I mean, I remember Chris is, when I played with him, he was probably in his 40s, and I just wonder whether when he was younger, when he was early 20s, when he first started, was he a quicker bowler?
He was a batsman.
Was he a batsman?
He was an opening bat up in Surrey, and then he moved down and joined as an opening bat. Yeah. And then when others kind of, as he got older, he developed. He just found that he turned into a leg spin bowler because that's all he could bowl, and just got wickets.
I kept wicket to him once, and you couldn't help but try to take the ball in front of the line.
No ball.
Yeah.
So it was everything that you were thinking: be patient, wait for the ball. And there was a couple of times it went down the leg side, and you were kind of waiting for the batsman to swing round and smash you as well as the ball.
Yeah.
But no, incredible. And I think maybe it was the uncovered pitches in those days which might have helped him. I think, now these pitches get rolled and, cared for. I think it probably would have made it easier to play him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, where are we next?
Well, I've got a couple of seamers down the bottom of the order. So, third team player, really, bit of second team, but great guy, Tony Garner.
Excellent choice.
I think there's a generation of cricketers of my era, and maybe a few younger than me, who will have played Sunday third 11 cricket with Tony Garner, and he has guided them through the process, and he's just a lovely man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Tony standing at mid-off, encouraging, whatever the state of the game, same disposition, always encouraging. It's a game of cricket, here to enjoy it. Lancastrian.
Yes, indeed.
And, seeing at the end of every over, Tony running between mid-off to mid-off, at the age of, probably he was at the age of 50, and he was...
And some he was, I think it was into his 60s and still.
Yeah. And that was, Tony was a great guy to have involved with.
So the first Vets game we had, Tony was invited to play, and he turned out he was 70. And I said, "Come on, Tony, open the bowling." And he bowled this half volley, and it's hit back, and stupidly he put his hand out and it hit him dead centre, and he dropped it. But I think he realised then it was time to go.
So he did well to see.
Well, exactly. And he said, and he played. He didn't bat, but he played. And he said, "I was so pleased just to be invited, to be part of it, and to be back up here and feel part of it." Yeah. And it's not always, when you're in the third team, you don't get to play at Findon a lot. There's a lot of games at Hill Barn. So, some people, it's all about playing at Findon, but for others, they don't get that opportunity. So I think that's doubly important that he gets recognised.
He's an excellent pick.
Yeah.
And both Tony and Margaret are vice presidents, so still involved with the club. They still come up and support the club as well, which is great.
Yeah. I bumped into them a few years ago when they were moving house from High Southington down to Goring, where they've been for a few years now. But lovely couple. Yeah,
fine man.
Come on, let's finish this off, Mike. We've got two.
Paul O'Neill in there. Nipper as an opening bowler. So he can probably share the ball with Nigel Waller in that sense. But Paul O'Neill, I just played a lot of cricket with Paul in the younger days, and he seemed to be forever there. He was always playing. And it was a bit sad actually when he left, because he didn't. I mean, we didn't even about the age of 25, perhaps a bit younger.
No, younger than that.
Younger than that.
I don't think he played. I don't think he'd have played much, if at all, after university.
Yeah.
Was he not captain of the twos for a year?
He was, but that was very young. So I think he was early 20s when he moved away. I don't think he played a lot here after university.
I went out with his sister.
I would have done because he probably did. You might be maybe 25, might be right, because he worked for Greenie at Excess for a while before he moved away. But
that's what my image is of him as a young guy playing in a team of a fair few guys who weren't youngsters. They were older team. And he came into that side and held his position.
Good bowler.
And was there.
Good lively bowler. Did something with it.
Yeah. Don't know whether he still plays cricket these days. I mean, he's your era.
No, I don't think he does. He's got
his lads.
At least one or two of his lads do. I think he's got 4 boys. I think.
Okay. Lives in where? West Country somewhere? No. Do we know?
We don't know.
I can't think off the top of my head.
But
I should know. But
he'll be on.
Yeah.
We've got. I see Terrio every now and then.
Of course, with the carpet. Well, the carpets for a little while, wasn't it? Terrio, police.
O'Neill carpets, yeah. And Terrio did a lot of work for the club behind the bar. He umpired, various matches. So I went out with his daughter. Yeah. So really good guy.
Yeah.
She saw the light, thankfully.
Well, did she?
Yeah. Everyone does, apart from Kaz, who's a sucker for punishment.
Anyway, talking about your final bowler, final player.
There's one slot, isn't there?
You got your slow bowler in there.
And he could bat in all sorts of places, but played a lot of second team cricket, played a lot of cricket with him, over the years. So that's your good self, Simon.
One up, Spider, with 1 all.
Put you in there.
Get in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
25 quid that cost me, but I'm in the Spice.
It's fine.
So, the 16-year-old who came into the first team was nicknamed GB.
Golden Balls.
Yeah, by Mr. Peter Boyd, who was our overseas.
Yeah.
For 3 or 4 different years, wasn't it? So, yeah, I certainly remember you playing at Storrington and hitting a couple of large straight drives. I don't know whether the pond got had an interest.
It was with, I believe, Phil Price, 99.
Yeah, Phil Price.
And I did a one shot in the village house. Or the gun, and he chased me around the pool table to try and punch me.
Right.
Phil.
Yeah.
Funny, and this is not my podcast, my team, but the funny story about that game was that I was batting, I think perhaps 7, something like that. The game started. It was a very hot day. The aforementioned Paul O'Neill and I were dispatched over to the petrol station to get ice creams. Bought a carrier bag full of ice creams. We're wandering back. So you come back far side of the ground.
Yeah.
The players sat in front of the pavilion, waving. To which Nipper and I thought they were waving because they wanted their ice creams. We thought it'd be quite funny, so we're waving back. Proceeded to get our own ice creams out and eat them, waving back. Wasn't until the end of the over when
you looked at the
score thing went, and an extra 3 wickets were added to the score.
Shit.
Yeah, and I had to
leg it round.
I literally was still putting my whites on when I was due in, and dashed out. Didn't get to finish my ice cream. Dashed out. To which Pricey was like, "Right, stay in. Just don't worry about getting runs. Just stay in. I'll get the runs." And
he did.
Which he did. And yes,
skipper of the team. Those days. Would that have been?
It was either you or
wasn't good as was it?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was. It would have either. It would either been you or Fish.
So 16, you.
No, so
been, what year?
No, so,
what year would that
so,
been? What year would that be?
So that'd be 88. So you're right. It was good as.
Would have been good.
Yeah. It was good as. So
yeah,
you're right. Yeah. So so that was one of my. It's one of my favourite cricketing memories of was up there. Oh, thank you, Ant.
Still sticks, doesn't it? Golden balls still just about sticks. Well, whenever I address you on a rather a text message, it's usually GB.
Mr. Rogers still calls me GB as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Good days.
Well,
happy days.
Mike, any other names that you want to kind of bring up that you felt you couldn't add in that are important?
There's a few. John Scrace is one. I mean, primarily John, because he was around a lot when I started playing, but also because he was the first person I ever saw with a mobile phone, which is about the size of a brick.
Yeah.
Literally was.
Sort of Del Boy kind of size thing, yeah.
What's that? What's John doing? He's talking to something in his hand. What's going on? It's a phone. Is it?
There's a funny story about that phone that they played evening league and
did it go walkabouts or something?
Well, no, I'm trying to remember the guy's name who knew how to unlock the phone. And Boydie phoned his dad in New Zealand using the phone. We're going to need to do a bit of research to make sure that this story is correct. But I believe it was in the John Selden pub after an evening league day game. But we'll verify.
We'll get on to Boydie on that one.
Yeah.
Anyone else, Mike?
Duffs was
legend.
Duffs was legend. If he liked what was going on, he was happy. But if he didn't like it, he'd get full barrel. Duffs. But he loved the club, didn't he? Absolutely loved the club. And the way he got, I mean, I didn't really play much in it because I wasn't good enough to play in it. But his Duffs team, evening league team, brought together quite a lot of, feel good that translated into Findon ultimately. And there were a few guys who were, as were the Portobello guys playing for Duffs team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was absolutely, Findon, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Duffs. Neil Higgins.
Yeah.
Great stalwart of our club. Played mostly second team cricket, but played for a lot of years. And remember him hitting a winning six, when he was probably in his late 40s to win a game at Hill Barn. We need six to win off the last ball. Neil's facing no chance. Brilliant.
Canny bowler. Sadly, Neil's not well again at the moment, so I think we all send him our best wishes.
Normally see him at the golf game. Hopefully we will again. Yeah. Oliver Silverthorne is someone who, probably was he your sort of age?
Same age as me, yeah.
Similar,
yeah. Leg spinner, see if he could follow in the footsteps of. Well, no, he was older than Stewie, but
that's right.
But yeah, loved the game. Felt as though he just needed to play more. Really. Never really
we lost into his chefing too early.
He should play more.
So, we offer the people on the show an opportunity to sort of give their thoughts about the state of the club right now, Mike. So kind of wrapping up, how do you see the club at the moment?
I see the club with what appears to be a very strong lower end of the junior section. Numbers seem to be very good, and it looks as though we've got some good players in there. Taught by our own guys, took the two sets of twins are obviously very good players, but there are obviously lots of other players as well who are very good players. So I think junior side of it in the lower end, we seem to be lacking a bit in the 16 to 19 age, possibly, but that comes and goes a bit. I think the challenge is getting a third team out. I think it really is quite a challenge to get players and get facilities for our third team to play and want to play, because we've struggled for so many years at Hill Barn, and that's if you're a member of our club and you play regularly here, that's a completely different membership to playing at Hill Barn. And I'm not sure what we can do about that, but other than try and find a venue that is better for us. But there are not many around. But I think that's the main challenge for us is a third team. Because as soon as you sort of start saying, actually, we can't put a third team out, that's not the good news. We have talked probably 5 years, 6 years ago, saying, we might better get a fourth team out. That seems quite a long way away.
Yeah, I think it's regularity of senior availability is what causes that problem. I think, like you say, we've got some of those youngsters are now starting to sort of 13, 14 and are well capable of playing third 11 cricket, but we need enough seniors in the second and third 11 to play with them and nurture them, and that's certainly the challenge early this season anyway. Hopefully the numbers come through so much that it's a shorter term.
I'm not sure it's a problem throughout cricket.
Quite possibly.
I mean, the Sussex leagues say that participation levels are going up. They're certainly going up in the women's game, which is great because we've got an awful lot of people who come up here with brothers who play cricket, youngsters, and now we've got more girls involved. And I suspect, I don't know, somewhere along the line we'll probably get a girls' girls team together. I would have thought we'll get back.
We've had one in the past.
Yeah, and
be good to get that back again.
I think so.
So, Mike, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Spider.
Thank you for everything that you've done for the club. Long may that continue. And Simon,
most importantly, thank you for slipping me into your side cheekily there, and for not having Jason in your side. That's you couldn't have made me any happier.
Jason was 15 on the list.
Top 20.
There's only 14 available slots.
That's okay.
Never mind.
Right, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Spider.
Thanks, Mike.
Catch you soon.
Thank you, Simon.
Take
Cheers.
care. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Excellent. Good on.
All right.
Nice.
Findon. Kenzie.
Spidey.
So after we recorded the interview with Mike, he phoned me up and he said, "I'd like to just let you know I've been thinking about my team," and he wished he'd have picked another player in his side. He felt really bad, and he phoned me, and he really wished he had picked Peter Hughes in his side.
The poacher.
The poacher.
Ooh, I wouldn't have him in my side.
I tell you who would.
Who?
Bill Oddie.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So Mike asked me to sort of clarify for the record that he would have picked Peter Hughes in his team, because Pete's a great guy. He's put a lot of service in. Great thing about Hughesy is, obviously, he's probably played 2s and 3s cricket mostly. He played a lot of cricket at Hill Barn, where the sun doesn't shine as much as it does at Long Furlong.
It doesn't. And if you need to find a buzzard, Hughesy is your man.
Yeah. He's very knowledgeable of birds.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows.
No. In all seriousness, I might have Poach in my side. Poach is a top man. He is one of those guys that I think falls under the Findon legend status. But
what we do need to do is make sure people do their prep before they come on the podcast.
Lesson learned, Mikey Metters. Get your team sorted first.
Thank you and goodbye.
Cheers.
Findon.